Welcome, everybody, to the I've Been Thinking podcast, where everyday thoughts lead to extraordinary conversation. You got your host, Ryan Lehman, here, and you got Mike on the mic, too. How are you, Mike?
Feeling good. How are you?
Good. That was an interesting sentence right there. You got Mike on the mic. That I didn't expect me to say it like that, but it's already said and done. We got a great podcast coming for you guys today. First, just want to say thank you for all the listeners. Like always, it's fantastic to know that people are enjoying the content that we're putting out. So we're just super grateful for everybody in that sense. Today, we're going to be talking about adventure, having an adventurous life, just trying to find ways that you can enjoy the journey and to just take away stuff throughout life instead of just rushing it. Mike, what do you think about that topic today?
Well, you ended the last podcast talking about adventure, and I thought it was a good point. And I think we both got off and said we could probably talk about that for another hour. So here we are.
So let's see.
Yeah, the question is, how do you make your life an adventure? Because it's great to go on adventures, right? Everybody should climb a mountain. Everybody should go on a road trip, right? Go on an adventure. But what does it mean to make your life an adventure? I think that's the fun question.
Yeah, I like that question a lot. So for living life and making it an adventure, I think that it comes down to the journey is a very important part of it. I don't think you can have an adventure without enjoying the journey, just trying to always reach like this destination, because you won't be happy. I feel like happiness has to do with being adventurous. I feel like there's a portion of that in there. What do you think about that?
The last part you said was what has to do with happiness? Say it again.
I feel like enjoying the journey is a part of being adventurous, and happiness has to do with that, or being joyful about it.
I see. So you're getting the joy and the happiness out of the journey itself, not just the destination. I agree with that. I think you're right, because if you took the journey out of adventure, you probably wouldn't call it an adventure anymore. Right? It'd just be somewhere you got to. Like the novels about adventure wouldn't be that interesting if they were just there, right? Yeah. So I think you hit a good point right away. Journey is what's the cliche? The journey's more important than the destination.
I think that's it.
What do you think about bumper stickers? Are you a fan?
I don't personally have them, but I always love to read them. So I always love the cards that are just like stacked, like from bottom to top with just bumper stickers. Like those always are so fun. But I feel like I see like 3 common ones throughout it, like Baby on Board and like a bunch of other ones, and like that's it. And then when you go like road trip, and you start to see some really good ones.
You see a lot of good ones, yeah. I'm thinking about the ones that say not all who wander are lost. I feel like I see all those all the time.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I've never liked it.
Why don't you like those, man? I feel like it's a good saying.
Well, what is does wandering have to do with an adventure? Like, I kind of think those are like opposites almost.
Do you? I feel like you can wander into an adventure.
Maybe. You could maybe wander into an adventure, yeah. But I guess it's a question of, if you're wandering, you're somewhat aimless, right? Whereas an adventure, I don't know, it's a question to you. Do you think you need a specific goal to have an adventure?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, all right. We might disagree. Talk to me.
So I think for some of the best adventures I've been on are ones that aren't planned. Because you can plan something, but your expectations are there of like, okay, we are going to Disneyland, and then we're gonna fly to the Bahamas. So it's like, okay, I'm excited. This is great. And it's not that that's a bad thing, but and that could be an adventure, but I think you could also have an adventure without expectations, because now you're not expecting anything. And so those adventures are where you might maybe learn the most meaning from stuff, because it's not planned. If stuff's not planned, it might be outside of your comfort zone. And when it's outside of your comfort zone, you might learn more than you would have inside of your comfort zone.
Okay, agree with that last part. What then makes something an adventure? If you walk aimlessly into Tijuana with no plans for recreation and you have a adventurous day, what is the adventure? Define it.
Ooh, that's tough.
Right? You find adventure wherever you go. You can wander into adventure, you can find an adventure you didn't plan. But then what's the adventure that you found? What is it?
Yeah, I'm torn between including, like I mentioned in the beginning, happiness and being joyful in there, because
Huh.
if you think about, so I was gonna say it's periods of time where you've taken meaning out of it, and I'm
Hmm.
wondering, can you actually say that? Because think about miserable times that you've had that you can look back and say these were super insightful times.
Hmm.
I don't think most people would call that an adventure, though.
The struggling part.
Yeah, like going
Hmm.
through a really tough time in your life, would you call that an adventure? I feel like most people like the connotation that you have around adventure is it was a good time. It was a good time to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is the center of how I define adventure is exactly what you just said. Is a lot of the time people don't consider something an adventure because they didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the secret to finding adventure is overcoming difficult things. So it's like
Oh,
the
okay.
perspective you have on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think anything can become an adventure. And it's interesting that you started from okay, you can wander into it. Yeah, I agree with that. You could not plan something, but then find yourself in a situation and end up having an adventure. But
Mm-hmm.
I think you can just as well take your circumstances as they are, look at them differently, and find adventure. I think that's also true.
I 100% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So you disagreed before, though. What did you specifically disagree about?
Yeah. Um, I think you can wander, like you can not be looking for something and then find yourself like at the beginning of an adventure and then go have one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think a lot of the time it's more perspective based, and you're kind of creating an adventure because of the way you see something, and so therefore it's very directed, right? Um, Now that's kind of true if you go somewhere, like if you're on vacation and your mindset is we're going to go find something fun, right? Or we're going to go make some trouble, or we're going to go break the law, whatever. That's actually a pretty specific thing. Like you actually do have a goal, right? We're going to go have fun at all costs. And then your adventure is struggling against the laws and traffic and the cops. And then you have an adventure. And then, there
Mm-hmm.
you are. And so that, like not having a specific plan is very different than just wandering, where wandering is just like aimlessness. So I think that's what I was
Mm-hmm.
getting at is I think the
Okay.
aimlessness is like the enemy of an adventure. Truly not having any goals or anything that you're looking after going for, I think that makes it very difficult to have an adventure.
Okay. I I could somewhat agree with that. So when we're talking about trying to have like this adventurous life, or a
Hmm.
life full of adventure in some sense, how do you not wander aimlessly though? Because for we've talked about in this podcast multiple times trying to like find purpose. And me personally, I've definitely feel like I've multiple times in my life where I've walked like just aimlessly and not really sure where to go. And so how do you get off that path?
Well, you can not know where to go and not be aimless. Like that's different, right?
Okay, describe that though.
Well, aimless would be like apathetic, like not caring where you go, right?
Mm,
That's a whole different animal than just not knowing right what the right thing to do is, right?
okay.
So, and like if you think of any good novel, uh, like any good adventure novel, specifically, specifically like children's books and fairy tales,
Hmm.
which I somewhat enjoy. uh, there's oftentimes a quest, like
Hmm.
some wise wizard gives like some kid a quest and he has to go do something. And the immediate reality is that character has no idea what to do, right? So they have no idea what to do, but they have a specific goal. So that's not the same as not caring if you get to the end, right? You see what I
Yeah,
mean?
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I've always thought of adventure as something like that kind of quest. And it's like an archetype, right? Those stories that somebody mysterious has given you this big grand goal and you have to go achieve it, otherwise the world ends or whatever, right? Or evil wins. uh and if you don't go get the ring from the volcano, then it's all over, right?
Mm.
uh yeah, if that's what an adventure is, then there's a very specific goal, and there's all these obstacles to overcome to get to the goal. And then, it's not the achieving it that makes it an adventure, but it's the fact that you know went through all the things to get there, and then there's your adventure.
Okay, so then I got a question. What about a going on an adventure for the wrong reasons? Do you think that's
Okay.
possible?
Okay, like an evil adventure. Like we're going on an adventure to murder people, like is
No,
that what you mean?
no. I meant
Okay.
I meant that you're going on an adventure because you want to like flaunt it in some
Mm,
way.
yeah.
What do you think about
Mm.
that?
Well, so I think a very good example of adventure is mountain climbing. So
Hmm.
I've done a couple mountain climbs, and they are a good like for me they've been good examples of what an adventure is, because it took training at the beginning, right? I had to train, I had to overcome a lot of things even before it got to the mountain, and then you get to the mountain and then you got to do it. You climb, and you're tired, and you get there and you make it, right? It's kind of the textbook adventure. um, but yeah, it's a good question. If you're climbing mountains so you can take pictures of it, or so you can be the best mountain climber in the world, right? Or you can be better than the next guy. I don't know. I think you can corrupt most things. So can you hollow out what could have been an adventure because you had the wrong perspective? Sure, I think so. And I think the reason that is because adventure is not a physical thing, right? There's no physical thing that constitutes adventure, right? It's you make it an adventure by how you perceive it, I think.
So then, if someone is going and hiking up this mountain, this hypothetical mountain that we're talking about, and is going to take pictures because they want to post on their Instagram, hey, I went to this incredible mountain that everybody's going to nowadays. If they perceive it as an adventure and maybe you don't, I guess is that a problem in your mind, or it's just two people perceiving two different things differently, which is super common for a lot of things.
You're saying if I don't think that what they did was good enough to be an adventure, does it count?
Yeah, doesn't count.
No, no,
Exactly.
yeah, I'm in charge of what adventure is. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
no, I don't think that's what it means. I think it's not about who gets to decide whether it's an adventure. It's, well, like, I'm sure you've had the experience of doing the same thing and getting different results, right?
Hmm.
Like going and doing something with a different mindset, and either starting with the right mindset and then it changing and it not being as good, or the other way around, right? I think that's all I'm saying, is that, for me, if I was climbing mountains and it was an adventure, and then I started to change why I was doing it, and eventually I got to the point where it was no longer this courageous thing I was doing to test myself, it was just about something else, then maybe it's not an adventure, right? It's not so much about comparing people, it's about maybe internally. What is your greatest adventure, Ryan?
Ooh. Um, I don't know. I feel like now that you said it, I'm starting to think of a lot of adventures, which might sound weird, or like m- mind adventures, if that's even a
Mm.
thing. So like just going through different areas and exploring them in my own mind, whether that's trying to meditate in different ways or trying to look at the world in a different way. So to me, I guess before what you just said, it's always like, okay, what am I physically doing with this adventure? And then what am I, like you mentioned, like consciously thinking about with my perspective of this adventure? But then you said a few things, and I was just like, huh, I wonder, like, I don't even have to go anywhere. And I feel like I've had these adventures, these pieces of wisdom that have popped into my head through just like talking with people or meditating. And yeah, I don't know if I can answer like what my greatest adventure is. I feel like the greatest adventure I feel like I've been on is finding more peace within myself, more internal validation of like I feel like I've been trying to change when I was younger of who I am to meet some of the role models that I really looked up to. And finally realizing that there's certain things that I can bring to this world that most people can, and when I combine these different things together, like it's incredibly unique because each one of us is very unique, and just being super happy with that and super grateful. So I think that was an adventure I'd been on for a while, and it wasn't like anything physically, like I didn't go anywhere, but it just experienced life, and I'd say
Mm.
that so far is my biggest adventure.
Oh, that's a pretty cool answer. Yeah, that's what we
Yeah,
talked about in the last podcast was how you figure out who you are,
yeah.
and that's how you ended the podcast was figuring out who you are can be an adventure. So let's talk about that then. Uh, what makes it an adventure? Figuring out who you are. Like if we were, if we have this definition of adventure, the storybook adventure, how is you quote figuring out who you are an adventure? Like how does that make any sense?
Yeah. Okay. So for an adventure, there's usually, like you mentioned, if we're going this fairy tale way, there's something that you're trying to achieve at the end.
Hmm.
And maybe because there's something that's missing currently. Like, why else would you go on an adventure for something? Is
Ah,
something's like not in order.
right,
And I think
right.
that's how it starts. Of like, hey, I don't something's not ordered correctly in some way. If that's how you
Ah,
feel.
yeah, yeah. That's a great answer. I like that. Something's not
What do you?
in order. Yeah, like the kingdom is broken.
Yeah.
Kingdom is out of sorts. And we have to put it back. Yeah, evil is running rampant, and we have to squash it. It's there's a dragon, and it's taking all of our gold. We have to kill it.
Yes.
I agree. Okay, so there's something not in order in you, is what you're saying.
It, yes, but I think that happens with all of us. It's just a matter of how strong that gets at a certain point where you actually do something about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because there's always going to
Okay.
be chaos.
Yeah. Right. So I was going to be my question then. What is the thing you're looking for then? You might have to adventure because things are out of sorts, but what then? What then is your end?
So I think, which this might sound weird, but I think it, like finally accepting the fact that there is no end. Instead
Hmm.
of like hunting and hunting and hunting, which might be the start of your journey, but realizing like, hey, this it's an ongoing adventure of life and you don't actually end it. But when you realize that, you kind of do end your adventure because you accept that what you are going to be going through for the rest of your life, you're going to be taking away more and more things that you can kind of use on like a daily basis to help you navigate your way.
Hmm.
That might not make any sense, but like that's how my brain was just thinking of it.
No, dude, I liked it. I think, yeah, the idea of I don't know who said this, but that you don't you don't really know like anybody in your life, right? You don't really know them. Like they might be your right. They might be your wife or like your brother, but
Yeah.
you know them, but you don't really know them, right? Like they're
Mhm.
so interesting. You could always find something new about them, right? But that the same thing is true of you. That you are yourself, but you still don't quite totally understand yourself completely. and that you could spend your whole life, right? It's not this whole brand new thing that I'm going out to achieve, right? It's me,
Mm-hmm.
but it's constantly new, and it's just too deep, right? You're not going to get to the bottom of who you are. So I think you
Mm-hmm.
said that very well, that when you accept that as the adventure, it doesn't stop, but you also don't have to like try so hard to get somewhere, right? Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like
Mm.
there's this notion of getting to the kingdom as fast as possible because there's a bunch of
Yeah.
people chasing you, and I think once you can reconcile that, it's nobody's chasing you, and you can take as
Mm.
much time as you want, or I guess until you die, because time is finite. But at that
Mm.
point, like, you can actually relax and be in the present, which allows you to go day by day and enjoy it so much more and find so much more adventure in that day, which is exactly what you were saying before, because you could have been going day by day the exact same way. Now you're being present. Now you have way more perspective.
Mm. Okay. So the way you're describing it, then the first and maybe uh, chief adventure of your life is figuring out who you are. But then you've said you maybe don't ever finish that. But what about all the other things you have to do, right? That's the obvious question. Well, I could sit
Yeah.
around and find myself. Um, but I think that's a great place to start. It's maybe the most important thing to do. But if you were then going to say, okay, well, I do still live in a house, on a street, in a city, in a state, and there's these people around me, and what now? Uh, I think that becomes a very interesting question as well. How do you take just your unique specifics of your circumstance and then make them into an adventure, right? There's probably nothing too particularly interesting about your specific life
Mm-hmm.
other than that is yours, right? And yeah, how do you change that perspective to make it an adventure? People say be the hero of your own story. It's good advice.
So, well, okay. Well, I'm first curious of like what you think about that being the hero of like your own adventure, because that's in it of itself something really interesting to talk about. So,
I'm a big fan. Yep.
you're a big
I,
fan.
I try to be a hero every day.
But what does that mean? What does a hero mean to you?
Mm. I think it's a call to be better. Like it's an aspirational thing that
Mm-hmm.
if you were to act like a hero in your story versus act like the victim of a story, right? Instead of just being a character that things happen to in the journey, right? That to take the metaphor, fully, it's that the story is being written from your perspective, right? So it's your quest that you're on, and what would happen if the hero of the story just like stopped? Well, that would be over. So yeah, just kind of take that seriously. That okay, well, if everybody is like the center of their own life, the main character of their own story, then maybe I should act a certain way, right? What would what would the hero in my situation do to slay the dragon or whatever it is?
Are you
So I think
slaying
it's like a
dragons
cool
every day?
mindset shift.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I was asking if you were slaying dragons every day.
Yeah, man. What dragon a day keeps the doctor away?
I like that say. That's a good one.
What do
I
you think of
guess
it?
for a hero, there's two sides of it for me. One of them, I really, really liked what you said of just trying to be like the best version of yourself. Um, there's a book I recently read, and I wish I could remember the name, but I totally forgot it.
Mm.
Something with the garden. Don't know. There's probably plenty of books with the garden name, so nobody will have any insight now. But I'll try to post it in the description of the podcast if I find it. But basically, this book talked about how everything you do, you should kind of give. No, not you should kind of. You should definitely give 100% because you shouldn't half-ass anything. And of course, like we hear that all the time, but I really, really enjoy how they like described it and shown how to kind of use that skill. So to me, being a hero is exactly that, of like giving 100%, stop like not slacking at anything, don't pick up stuff that you know you can't like commit to. But then the other part of being a hero, it's a it's a little, I guess, controversial for me, because a hero is someone that always has so much. And I know this could be wrong for some heroes. Like for instance, like Batman has like this alter ego. So like him during the day, nobody has to like actually know it. It's like this humbleness that he kind of has. And so for other heroes, it's almost like flaunting, hey, I'm a hero, I'm a hero. Like make sure there's like publicity everywhere. And
Mm.
I'd like to think of like going through your day-to-day basis, if you're going to be a hero as stepping in and making sure that you're there for other people and not yourself. So that's why I really like the
Yeah.
aspect of a hero, because we've talked about before, like I really like a component of your life to be, hey, this is not about me anymore. This is about other people, which I really, really like. And a hero can definitely resemble that, but it also like could be
Mm.
detrimental at some points.
I think you need to read more fairy tales, because I think you're thinking of a celebrity. Oftentimes, the hero. Have you ever seen Lord of the Rings? Who's the hero?
I've never seen Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay. It's this nobody.
Uh,
Every children's fairy tale, the hero is some insignificant person.
mhm,
I particularly like the Narnia books. Those are both, or all of them. I think there's 7, are all very good. But they're children's books. Like they're just straight up kids fairy tales. And so the main
mhm,
characters are like 12-year-old kids. But the point being, the hero in the story is some kid who knows nothing, who's being given this grand quest that's like way too much for them to ever be able
mhm.
to do. But then in the end, they actually achieve it and they overcome all the obstacles. And but yeah, most of the time it's not about them, right? The kingdom is dying and some random kid's gonna save it, and what's he care? Uh, Actually, in the Narnia books, the kids saving Narnia aren't even in the same world. They literally don't care. Like they're just doing it to save these other random people. Um, so yeah, I think the idea of being a hero, I would say a good hero does the right thing and prevails. That's what a hero does. If I was to sum it up.
Mhm.
And so to live
Okay.
your life as if you were a hero would mean that you would hold yourself to the standard that you would always do the right thing, and that you would start to believe that you're going to prevail, because heroes prevail, right?
Mhm.
And I think that becomes a very deep spiritual question. The idea of, do I actually believe that I will succeed and prevail in the things that I care about and that I'm working towards? I don't know if you've ever asked that before, but like if you believe in God and God is supposed to love you and give you good things, and wants good things for you, then why would he not help you prevail if you're doing good, right? Why wouldn't he help you be a hero?
Why I'm wondering in that scenario, like maybe he won't help you because you're on the wrong path.
Right. Yeah. And that's why it's 2 parts, right? The hero does the right thing, not for their own gain, uh, but prevails. Yeah. So I think that's a good point. If you're chasing the wrong thing, yeah, I can agree with that. I don't know if God would necessarily help you achieve those things. But
So
if you
can there ever
assume
be?
that you're working towards something good,
Mhm.
and it is something that maybe God also thinks is good, then maybe he would help you.
So can you ever be on an adventure and you have to pivot that adventure because of that?
Mm. Practically, yeah. Not in the storybooks. They don't usually pivot.
I'm more speaking
Yeah.
practically.
Um. Sure. Yeah. I think we're wrong all the time. So learning how to be wrong is a good thing. Yeah, that's why it's an interesting line, right? Like I don't know if you feel this in anything you're doing right now in your current life, but wanting something and pursuing it, and then trying to decide if you're not on the right path and you need to change direction, or if you're on the right path and you just need to have faith that it's going to work. That's it's a tough line to ride for sure.
I love that one though, because I think I've talked to you about it with the racks
Mm.
that you're trying to get off the ground, and to me it's like,
Truck
oh, how
racks.
do you truck racks? How do you know that you're going in the right direction there?
Mm.
Because that might not be for you, and when it gets really tough and you're giving it everything you got, but it's just not working out, is that a sign
Yeah.
from God that you should pivot because this is not what meant to be, or this is a sign that you need resilience? Can't even pronounce the word, and you should
Hmm.
keep going on that path.
Well, I'll say two things. One is that if you climb a mountain, you're not doing it because it's easy. You're doing it because it's hard. Like the whole purpose is that it's a challenge. So I think that that is fundamental to adventure. Is if there's no challenge to be overcome, if there's no courage that's required of you, then it's not really in the fullest sense an adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my perspective. And so a mountain's a good example because it's difficult, and halfway up you're gonna not want to keep going, but you're gonna keep going and you're gonna get to the top, and it's you get to the culmination, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think you have to get past yourself when things are difficult towards a goal that, like, to change your perspective, right? That's where we started with this conversation, that you could make
Mm-hmm.
an adventure out of anything. Why why is the struggle a negative in your adventure? It's the best part of every book, right? Like, it's the most interesting thing that happens is the character is given some goal and they're trying to achieve it and they can't figure it out, or they can't quite get there, or there's something in the way. And the interesting part of the book is how they solve the problem, right? How they find the resolution to get to the goal. So to look at your life that way and say, okay, I'm trying to do something, trying to start a business, I'm trying to find a relationship and it's not working. How do I overcome this obstacle and be like truly be heroic in this situation and overcome instead of being a victim, right? That something has happened to me and I can't do it, right? So I think it's that perspective change that
Mm-hmm.
I think is a choice. And it's a good
Yeah, I like
question.
that.
If you choose to succeed, could you fail
If
in
you
the
choose to,
in the grand analysis, right? You might choose to be the best swimmer in the world and fail. It's possible, right? But I don't know.
but I think the problem lies with we paint this picture of like what life should be, and
Hmm.
when life doesn't turn out that way, then it's a problem, then it's an issue, and we don't look at it
Hmm.
as, oh, we'll take something from this. We
Yeah.
look at it as this is not going the way I want. And when you this is why I think perspective is incredibly important in life, because when you flip that perspective and you say, well, if you listen to people that probably can touch you the most in life, they probably share stories of with you that are around struggles, because you don't go and listen to someone and get impacted by, hey, my life was incredibly great and everything
Hmm.
was perfect and now I'm
Yeah.
here and you can be here. It's like, no, you don't want to hear that, because like that's just not how life is. And so the struggles are so important to show that no matter what path you paint in your life, it's not going to go that way. It can guarantee you it's not going to go that way. So it's now a matter of
Hmm.
what do you do when life takes a different path. And I think that's what shows who someone truly is, because you can be this incredible person when everything's going really well, but it really shows true
Right.
character when stuff is not going your way.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That even as you have your goals, to have the mindset to be able to pivot as things change, right?
Yeah.
And that's not an allowance to just give up when it's hard. It's the perspective of, you know, I am this person. Maybe I don't even know what my purpose is, but I'm gonna pick the thing that feels right, feels like the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm gonna pursue it. And I'm gonna get everything I have. I'm not gonna quit, and I'm gonna make it an adventure. And if I get down that line and I realize that I'm actually made for something even more than that, then great. We'll pivot to that, right? Or you get down the line, you
Mhm.
go, wow, I actually am made for this thing that's over here. And you turn, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, maybe that's it. It's like the physical things might change as you go, but it's that perspective that you're really just pursuing that this whole, your whole life being the journey of what are you going to become. We haven't said that word yet, what you become, right? Like that's kind of your end is what you become, and you don't maybe that's it, right? You're on a journey to something, but you don't know what it is, and that thing is you.
I love that. So
Yeah.
do you think that every adventure that you have builds more and more of who you are? Like it defines of who you are?
Hmm. Probably it has to, right? Like it's hard to just say, oh well, that thing doesn't impact me anymore. Yeah, it's pretty unusual. um yeah, I'd say probably. And we were talking about this the other day, but um I don't remember which verse it is, but in the Bible it says, count all your joy as suffering because, or count all your suffering as joy because in suffering produce perseverance, and perseverance character, and character hope. And so yeah, I think that there is something in that, right? If you're going to say every adventure, if you look at it properly and you accept suffering as a thing that can produce something in you, then yeah, every suffering can change your life, can make you more, you know. But that's, yeah, that becomes a tough point. It's like nobody wants to suffer, nobody wants to struggle, right? Even in an adventure, it's like you kind of just want the end. Like if you could just save the kingdom, you would, right? You're not going to be like, well, it's not too easy if I can just save the kingdom. I need to have some fights in the middle. Like nobody wants that, right? But it's inevitable. It has to happen. Like it's just part of what life is. So I think that is an important. That's a very important thing, though, because you will suffer. It's how you approach it, right? If you get upset that you have to suffer and things are hard, then you've lost. But if you can accept it and say this is a challenge towards where I'm going to go and who I'm going to be, then how do you lose, right? So,
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. So like when you're in the adventure, like you can almost like maximize your adventure by having that mindset of like there's going to be
hmm,
challenges. I accept these challenges, and then you just can have a way better of an adventure that can grow you as a human being way better than it would if you went down this path of like let me go easiest route as possible to maneuver all this stuff, because at the end what have you really gained from that? And so
nothing.
maybe we
You've
can
gained you've gained
yeah.
nothing. Yeah, because you didn't gain yourself. If all you were pursuing was ease and comfort, well, you didn't find anything. Maybe you found the comfort, but 2 seconds later, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So you've found nothing of actual substance. You've just
Hmm.
found, distraction, you might say.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm wondering at what point though when you're if we're going through this analogy of going to the kingdom and you're fighting, there's a certain point where you can keep going through these challenges, but maybe you take on like way too many challenges at once and you're just getting beaten left and right. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you can keep trying to hit them on, but it goes with the same notion of like if you spread yourself too thin, like you're not going to be able to hit any single one of them. And so there has to be a point I feel like where you have to start condensing yourself into like focusing on each aspect, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because there's, like you brought up at the beginning, the idea that the most, maybe the primary adventure is yourself, becoming yourself, right? And you could even be distracted from that by all the things that you do, right? It's possible. Yeah, and doing too many things, maybe you can't actually do anything, right? Yeah. Do you ever read fairy tales?
I used to. I haven't in a while.
Did you ever watch Harry Potter?
I think I've seen like one of them like a long time ago.
Yeah.
I feel
Trick
like
question. Ryan
most.
Ryan doesn't watch movies, so.
I was gonna say I feel like most of these like really mainstream ones. I'm just like I haven't. I feel like I should. I
Mhm.
seen Star Wars.
That doesn't really
I don't
count.
know if
I don't
no, it
think.
doesn't count. Well, I know we're at 41 minutes already, but there is a segment that we want to introduce for this podcast and the future podcast to come. So we're going to introduce this segment, and basically every week when we have the podcast, we'll have this towards the end, and it's going to be a recap of kind of what we talked about and hopefully something that you can take away. And so we're calling this segment the takeaway.
For the record, this was my idea. So when this is your favorite part of the show, I get credit for this. But no, man, I think it's been a good conversation. I think the biggest thing that we really settled on is that adventure isn't really about the things that you do, not really about the physical things, right? We started talking about whether you can find adventure while you're wandering, um, or whether adventure is about finding happiness or joy. And then we talked about how you can maybe do the same thing and it's an adventure one time and it's not the next time, right? And so I think it just emphasizes that the the realest things in our lives are not physical; they're spiritual. And so an adventure is this really important thing that's in our stories, right? We talk about it all the time. It's in all of our media. It's heroes, right? And that's not a physical thing. It's not about the mountain or the specific thing you're overcoming. It's the perspective towards suffering. And I just like to add something that we haven't talked about yet uh, is courage. That courage is the thing that helps you overcome. Um, and so, what a hero has that makes them a hero, right? They always do the right thing. They persevere in the end. They go through the struggles and they don't quit. But they have courage, and courage is the thing that makes you do what seems like not worth doing, but you do it anyways. So yeah, I think just that idea that adventure is something that you can create with your own perspective. So it's a fun conversation.
That was an incredible takeaway, Mike. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for joining, man.
Yeah, dude, it's good.